was reading this news article and before he got sentenced, and there was a lot of learning that took place in my mind. Now, the said article looked like this. I will just say that as we all know, the heavier the crown, the more catastrophic the fall. Now, firstly, a few observations. Evidently, we all know that money talks, isn't it? Because the fact that his solicitors highlighted he was living in inhumane conditions, which, by the way, is very unlikely to be a new phenomenon? Oh dear. You know what I'm trying to say. And also, in addition to that, like, what did they think the other inmates were doing in there? That's how you know that money talks big, innit? And this was when they were trying to make their point to get him released before he actually did end up getting sentenced. But they were saying that sometimes, you know, the food contained maggots, which obviously does not sound pleasant, depending on what your dietary preferences are. That he was routinely subjected to violence. I mean, did we get proof of that? I'm not saying it didn't happen, but anyway. And another element of their argument was that he had not breathed fresh air in 13 months. When I read that, I just thought, what do they think all the other prison inmates have been doing? People that have been serving since. What do they think they get up to? Because it's interesting, when you have money, they really highlight the situation as a present day horror. This is so inhumane and inconceivable that somebody would be put in such an environment, situation, and conditions. And yet, people have been living that life for time. It's just what you're used to is the unsweet experience. And all of a sudden, when you are knocked off of that pedestal, now everything else is the equivalent of having to live in some bush somewhere in the back of some jungle. So their whole argument at the time was to try and get him released because he had already been serving time awaiting sentencing. And as we all know, he was cleared of the more serious offences, found guilty of prostitution related charges. I mean, we all saw the Cassie video. You can't get away with nothing these days, which is a good thing. But anyway, so the points that they were, you know, raising in order to try and secure this early release, which we all know didn't happen, was that he had served in one of the most notorious jails. Again, many people are also serving in the... Anyway, they also advised that he had made the most of his punishment. I mean, what about everyone else? I'm sure there are people that have been serving before he landed there and they have also made the most of their punishment. These people have become librarians. You know, people get degrees when they're in prison. So saying that he made the most of his punishment, anyway, he made the most of his punishment and he had been adequately punished. They mentioned that he had become sober for the first time in 25 years. I mean, I would hope so. Don't get me wrong, I know that you can get a hold of a lot of things in prison. Not that I have been to prison, but obviously I stream series. I've seen some things. So I guess that was a positive. But similarly, I'm sure that there's a lot of drug addicts who go clean after they enter prison. And primarily because they probably are unable to get a hold of the drugs that they would normally have access to if they were on the outside world. They said that he had had an incident-free record before his sentencing. Now, this was the one that I really liked. I'm not even going to front. But they said that he had helped other inmates by creating an educational program on business management. We can think what we want about the guy and that he's this monster, but he has business acumen. If somebody is skilled, just because somebody does something, but they learnt to play the piano their whole life, doesn't mean that they are no longer an incredible pianist. The fact that whether he's doing it genuinely, because I don't know about you guys, but if you saw the Netflix documentary, yeah, when he was out in the streets of, I don't know whether it was like Brooklyn or what have you, like he was amongst the people catching bants. And then when he got into the back of the vehicle and he was telling his staff, I need disinfectant, I need to take a shower, I can feel people all over me. And I was like, even that thing that you went to do, it wasn't even genuine from your heart. It was a selfish move. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this, I was also thinking it could just be a move to make himself look better in the eyes of the public. Possibly. Whether that is the case or not, if I was one of the inmates on this course, I don't business what his motive is. If I'm learning from this music mogul, I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm sorry, and learn what I can learn. I feel like that is a good thing that he did there. And again, whether his motive for it was genuine or insincere, we are never really going to know. But ultimately, hopefully there will be lives that he has impacted other inmates within the system who would have learnt what they could, and they will come out and run with what they have learned and make something of themselves. I see that as a positive. I'm not even going to front. So following all of this, his defense team has said it's now time for the rapper to go home to his family. Clearly, that didn't happen. He got sentenced, isn't it? So you guys may be wondering why I'm even talking about this today. It just might seem a bit random to the stuff that I usually talk about. But if you've been around my channel for a minute, you know what type of vibe I'm on. We like to learn around here, better ourselves, develop. And sometimes when other people go through certain things, especially when they are people who are already in the limelight, we can learn from their experiences so that as we are also developing and up and coming and growing and elevating and being better versions of ourselves, we can learn what not to do. Now, to look at some of the cons of self-inflicted catastrophe, because that is what else are we going to call this situation? What are the cons and what do they teach? Firstly, Diddy had to let go of over 100 employees. And the issue was many of them had been unable to find employment following their release due to the power of association. Like, we have to be so mindful about how we carry ourselves, how we represent ourselves and our brand. Because if you go left, not only are you and your reputation going left, now everybody that is part of your team, by default, their reputation is also going to go left. And so, whereas before any of this even came to surface in our atmosphere, if you had said that you were in any way aligned, collaboratively working with someone like P. Diddy, you would have got props, hired probably immediately. But because of his movements and the way that he has carried himself and what has happened and what he has done, now people don't want no parts. Let's say he's got staff that have been working for him for years. Even ChatGPT can't help them with that scenario on their CV. When they go applying to work somewhere else, it's going to be a problem. But again, that is the con of self-inflicted catastrophe. This is why we have to look after and represent ourselves in a way that honors God, ourselves, and those that we love. In addition, even his pitney them, his children, they lost business opportunities. Acting, TV, fashion, music. Like, listen, everybody was just cancel. The higher you sit, the harder you fall. Even their family TV show with Hulu, cancelled. Then he got removed from the boards of 3 charter schools that he created in Harlem, the Bronx, and Connecticut. I don't know if I pronounced that well, but anyway, sorry about, that's my English accent, isn't it? He was also stripped of his honorary degree from Howard University. Hey, the ramifications, crowd, they're serious. Like, literally, his reputation, it seems to be at a point where it will be irreparable. Now we want to look at the pros. What is the learning that we can take away? So firstly, if you have any smats, we are unlikely to repeat, because you will now know with certainty this is something you never want to experience ever again in life. In fact, having somebody like P. Diddy as an example that the rest of us can learn from, seeing what his experience has been like, I feel like for the majority of us, we're going to say we're never going to get ourselves in any type of situation where we put ourselves in this type of predicament. You will definitely, hopefully, have learnt your lesson. Hopefully, because some people don't like to learn. Another pro of going through self-inflicted catastrophe, it increases your level of empathy for people who you share a similar experience. Coming away from the whole P. Diddy situation, for example, like me experiencing premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Okay, I've spoken about the fact that I got myself into financial difficulty. I made some very erratic, impulsive choices that were detrimental to my life moving forward. And so because of experiences like that, is what created a deep level of empathy for other women who deal with the condition. Because I know how tough it was for me. Even though the condition isn't like my fault, but it is something that has had significant impact on my life, it still causes me to have empathy for other women who have the condition as well. And so if you go through a difficult situation, you know how it feels, you know what it looks like, so you're going to have more compassion on people who are wearing similar shoes. And then tied into that, having that relatability, you're going to have more of a desire to help people like that. essentially you end up wanting to use your own influence for good. So even as an example, P. Diddy business management course is using his skills to better other people's lives. Even for us everyday people who are not in the limelight, when we have gone through something, some type of struggle, difficulty, challenge, we meet people who have been through the same path. We do want to see them better their lives, especially if our lives have improved. We want to share what we have done so that they can also attain that for themselves. So what else can we learn? Never assume that you are it. Godlike, aka pride, all that and a bag of chips. Because if we remember correctly, why Lucifer and his people them got dashed down from the heavens, it was because of pride. Isaiah 14 verses 13 to 15. Hey, haughtiness will take you somewhere you don't want to go. Do not assume that you are invincible, thinking that you are better than everybody else because you've been able to attain things that a lot of people have not. Guess what? When we die, all of the wealth and everything that we've accumulated on this earth is going to be meaningless. And so just be humble in it. At the end of the day, even Jesus himself, the almighty King and Savior, and he washed the feet of his disciples. He taught us ultimate humility. And he even said, the first will be last and the last shall be first. So let's just be humble. Secondly, don't lose sight or stop implementing principles that lead to good character. Be a person of integrity, because more importantly than having an audience of human eyes is the fact that God can see what you are doing. Stand so firm in who you are, both privately and publicly, that the way you are can never be called into question. Represent yourself. Let your character speak for you. Thirdly, seek the welfare of others. It is not just about you. God put us on this earth to please him and to serve other people. Add value to the lives of people around you. And in doing that, guess what? Your life is also going to elevate indirectly. I heard Myron Golden say that the best way to create value in your life is by identifying a problem in somebody else's life and creating a solution for their problem. Live to solve the problems of other people, and in doing so is how we solve our own life's problems. And lastly, never stop learning. Be of a growth mindset. Life is constantly changing. It will require us to adapt, to grow new patterns, behaviors. Just don't ever think you've learned everything. Approach things from the perspective of there is always more that you can learn. Don't limit yourself by implementing a fixed mindset. Aim for constant expansion by implementing a growth mindset. P. Diddy's situation was very peak. A lot of us, we grew up big fans. Biggie, Tupac, the whole when these were really popping. And so to see that type of fall from grace, and I'm not gonna lie, that Netflix documentary did not help his situation one bit. But even that said, there is so much learning that we can take. And it's not that we're finding delight in their demise. If you're of a growth mindset, how can I learn from what they have been through so that I avoid making those types of mistakes? Be humble, be of good character, have compassion for other people, and never stop learning. And in case you want to hang around and watch something else on my platform, how about you try this? It's a bright new day. You're here with your girl, Miss Annie J. I'm gonna give them what they want because I came to slay. And nothing's ever gonna take my joy away. I'm about that life.